Discover the miraculous journey of Genesis, shocking divine transformations of 7 biblical heroes. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Abraham stood in the bustling city of Ur of the Chaldeans, a marvel of human civilization adorned with towering ziggurats and markets filled with the clamor of merchants selling their wares. The air was rich with the scent of spices, as vibrant as the banners that fluttered in the breeze. Yet, within this place of opulence, Abraham felt an ache, a yearning for something beyond the moon gods, the idols of his forefathers, whims of fate that held sway over the people. It was in the midst of this familiar chaos that a divine voice broke through, sharp as thunder, yet gentle as whispers on the wind. Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. The words echoed in his heart, stirring within him a tempest of fear and longing. Could he truly abandon all he had known? The loyalty of family, the comforts of Ur, it all weighed heavily on him. Was this voice the command of the Most High, or a mere conjuring of his restless spirit? His thoughts raced, uncertainty spiraling in the shadows of his mind. In you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. The promise of greatness loomed large before him, but the uncertainty clung like a shadow. Could a man from Ur, a land steeped in the worship of false gods, become the cornerstone of a nation? The inner struggle surged when all that surrounded him offered security. How was he to step into the void of the unknown? With faith ignited by the divine call, Abraham gathered his family, Sarah, with steadfast eyes that shone with a flicker of hope, and his kin. As they readied to leave, the weight of their belongings felt lighter, their hearts buoyed by the venture into the unknown. Each footfall away from Ur echoed with faith, a declaration that they were moving towards the land promised, cloaked in God's covenant of blessings. The journey took form beneath a relentlessly blazing sun, and soon trials emerged as shadows on the path. Famine beset the land, and the promise of a rich inheritance grew dim. Anxiety gnawed at Abraham and Sarah, each day stretched thin with uncertainty. Yet, even in the dark, the Lord's voice pierced through the assurance, "Fear not, for I will be your shield, your reward shall be very great." Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In the stillness of that solemn night, Abraham gazed up at the heavens, where countless stars blinked in silent testimony. God's promise shone through their celestial beauty, igniting a flame of hope deep within him. "Count the stars," the Lord declared, "so shall your offspring be." As he stood beneath that vast canopy, the weight of his doubts was lifted. A metamorphosis had begun. No longer was he merely Abraham of Ur, but Abraham, the father of many nations, stepping boldly into God's unfolding plan. Mystery hung in the air, and laughter broke through the weight of anticipation as they turned their hearts toward an unknown future. What awaited them beyond the horizon? As they journeyed on, each trial and tribulation emerged as a sculptor, chiseling faith into their spirits. The narrative of Abraham was being woven into the very fabric of history, one profound step into the promise at a time, leading towards a divine resolution in the chapters yet to be written. As they journeyed forth, Abraham and his kin approached the land of Canaan, the land the Lord had promised. The hills whispered secrets as they climbed, and the valleys stretched wide, inviting them into the heart of God's faithfulness. Yet, upon entering this land, they were met with new trials. The drought did not relent, and the soil, parched and cracked beneath their feet, signified the need to trust beyond sight. "Let us dwell here," Sarah suggested, her voice trembling yet resolute, "for it appears that we have wandered into another trial." To which Abraham replied, "Indeed, we must seek the presence of the Lord, for he will guide us through this adversity." And so Abraham began to call upon the name of the Lord at the oaks of Mamre, offering sacrifices to the God who had summoned him from Ur. The fire flickered, casting light upon their weary faces and illuminating their path through uncertainty. In the presence of God, hope renewed, for they remembered his covenant. To you and your descendants, I will give this land, Genesis 12 verse 7. Yet, when famine struck Canaan, fear threatened to envelop their hearts. In desperation, Abraham led his family into Egypt, believing they could find sustenance there. The golden sands were not as welcoming as they appeared. As they approached the borders, Abraham's thoughts turned to Sarah, for she was a woman of beauty, and he feared for her safety. "Say you are my sister," he implored her. "For if they see you, they will kill me to take you." Even in this peril, God's hand was upon them. The Lord protected Sarah, and she was taken into Pharaoh's house. But the Lord inflicted severe plagues upon Pharaoh's household because of Abraham's wife. Word reached the king, and he summoned Abraham. "What is this that you have done to me?" Pharaoh demanded, his voice heavy with righteousness. "Why did you not tell me she was your wife?" "Fear seized me," Abraham confessed, "for I thought the Egyptians would kill me." With that, Pharaoh returned Sarah to Abraham and commanded his men to escort them out of Egypt. "Take your wife and go," Pharaoh said, "and may your God be with you." As they returned to Canaan, rich with the spoils of Egypt, Abraham's heart lingered on the journey of faith. He stood once more beneath the endless sky, the stars twinkling as a reminder of the promise yet unfulfilled. The dream of countless descendants lay before him, and yet his heart bore the weight of doubt. How could this be true when both he and Sarah were beyond their childbearing years? One night, as he lay restless under the vast sky, the Lord spoke again, "Abraham, I am your shield, and your reward shall be very great." His heart stirred with holy expectation, but he questioned, "O Lord God, what will you give me, for I continue childless?" The depth of his need collided with the divine assurance, questions swirled, yet God's response was unwavering, "Look toward heaven, and number the stars, if you are able to number them. So shall your offspring be." Though uncertainty loomed large, Abraham's faith ignited anew, as the truth of God's covenant broke through the shrouded veil of doubt. And so, the tale of Abraham unfolded, bound by the threads of promise, his heart forever intertwined with God's purpose. But unbeknownst to him, the trials ahead would forge a legacy more significant than he could comprehend. As he nurtured this promise, another chapter loomed on the horizon. Would Abraham's journey culminate in fulfillment, or would the very faith that guided him become a battleground? For God's sovereign plan was ever in motion, drawing nearer to the hour when the promise would meet its manifestation. And in the days that followed, as the sun cast its golden light over the vastness of Canaan, Abraham ventured back to the oaks of Mamre, where he had first called upon the name of the Lord. His heart was heavy, yet hopeful, as he sought communion with his God. He spread out the skins beneath the tree, so that he might rest and abide in the presence of the Almighty. Amidst the whisper of the leaves and the rustling of the ground beneath, the Lord appeared to him in the form of three men. Seeing them approach, Abraham arose, rushing to meet them, bowing low to the earth. "My Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant," he entreated, for he sensed a divine moment unfolding. With hands that trembled, he offered water for their feet and a morsel of bread that they might refresh themselves. They accepted his hospitality, and as they feasted under the tree, Abraham stood beside them, eager and attentive. "Where is Sarah, your wife?" One of them inquired knowingly, and at the sound of her name, a silent tension gripped Abraham's heart. "She is in the tent," he replied, shifting with a mix of hope and fear. Then the men, speaking on behalf of the Lord, proclaimed, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife shall have a son." At this Abraham's heart leaped within him, but a glimmer of doubt shadowed his spirit, for how could this be possible? Inside the tent, Sarah overheard their words and laughed softly to herself, saying, "After I am old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also?" She felt the weight of her years, and her laughter echoed her disbelief. Yet, the Lord addressed her doubt, saying, "Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will return, and Sarah shall have a son." When Abraham heard this, his soul soared with the realization that the promise was closer than ever. The time had come for God to fulfill what seemed impossible to human eyes. The remainder of the afternoon passed with warmth and fellowship, the miracle yet to be born drawing nearer with every heartbeat. But the angels then rose to leave, their mission pressing. Abraham walked with them, the dust rising beneath his feet, engaging earnestly as they revealed God's intent to overthrow Sodom and Gomorrah for their wickedness. His heart gripped with concern for the righteous. Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Far be it from you to do such a thing. He pleaded passionately. Thus, through earnest intercession, Abraham sought to understand the depths of God's judgment, and in humility, he ventured afield, questioning again and again, until the Lord assured, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. With each word, the dance of grace unveiled, illustrating that even in judgment, God's mercy remained palpable. As Abraham stood at the border of despair and hope, pondering the tangled web of life that lay ahead, within him stirred the cold embrace of anguish. Would the faithful find their way? Would the promise truly come forth? And as the three departed, Abraham felt a flicker of fear mingled with holy anticipation. Little did he realize, the tapestry of his life was being woven into the fabric of redemption, a stratum upon which nations would rise. In the quiet of the evening, as shadows fell across the land, the Lord's plans persisted in their quiet assurance. For thus, it would unfold that Sarah's laughter would soon turn into joy, heralding the birth of hope in a world draped in darkness. Indeed, the promise of God lingered near, waiting upon the moment when faith would give birth to the miraculous. But would Abraham indeed believe, or would doubt again find its place in the heart of the patriarch? The divine timeline was speeding forth, destiny itself held its breath, waiting to reveal the wonders of God's sovereign plan. And it came to pass, after the departure of the angels, that Abraham returned to the shelter of his tent, a soul filled with conflict and anticipation. The stars adorned the vast sky, twinkling like promises yet unfulfilled. Each glimmer seemed to whisper of the future, stirring within him a longing for the day when laughter would replace disbelief. In the stillness of the night, as the moon cast its silver light upon the land, Abraham pondered the weight of the divine message. O Lord, he prayed, how can this come to fruition? Our years have molded us into relics of what once was, how can you breathe life into such desolation? Yet in that very moment, a fire kindled within him, a flicker of hope ignited by the words of the Lord that had passed through his ears. Meanwhile, in the solitude of the tent, Sarah wrestled with her thoughts. The laughter that had escaped her lips was now a veil of confusion over her heart. Could it truly be? She wondered. Am I to bear a son at such an advanced age? What would it signify for our names, for our lineage? Her heart fluttered with fear as she considered the impossible. Suddenly, a tenderness washed over her, a realization that perhaps she was being invited into a greater story than her own. With a trembling breath, she whispered a prayer of surrender, addressing the God who knows no bounds. If you desire it, O Lord, so be it unto me. Let your will be done. Days transformed into weeks, the sun rising and setting upon a landscape unchanged yet curiously vibrant. Abraham began to recount the promises he had received from God, rehearsing them like an ancient memory, emboldening his spirit. He gathered his servants beneath the oak trees, sharing tales of faith and the power of the Most High. Each word woven together under the shelter of God's assurance. Yet, the towns of Sodom and Gomorrah lay heavy on his heart. The cries of their sins ascended like smoke, reaching the ears of the Almighty. With each passing day, the obligation of his intercession burned brighter. He rose before dawn, his prayers rising with the morning mist, pleading for grace to abound even amidst the chaos. O Lord, would you spare the righteous? He would ask, his voice reverberating against the ancient stones. As the sun rose high one day, a shadow fell across Abraham's heart once more. He caught sight of 3 travelers on the horizon. His eyes widened in recognition, and a surge of urgency pressed upon him. He ran to greet them, knowing that in their approach might lie another divine purpose. "Come, stay with us," Abraham urged, leading them to his tent. With joy, he commanded a feast be prepared, and he washed their feet, welcoming them as heavenly hosts. To the amazement of those gathered, one among them spoke, "Where is your wife, Sarah?" The question echoed in the chamber of Abraham's spirit, rekindling the heavenly promise entwined with fear. Abraham trembled yet stood firm, "She is in the tent. Surely, I will return to you at this appointed time, and Sarah shall have a son." Sarah, listening in the shadows, felt the familiar flicker and danced between doubt and belief, until the words of the divine quelled her laughter into solemn wonderment. Thus, God's presence was made tangible before them, and within that sacred moment, destiny shifted. Abraham and Sarah were drawn further into his unfolding narrative, caught in the throes of divine love that transcended their limitations. Would their hearts embrace the promise amid their uncertainties, or would their past whisper again? As they sat before the visitors, the mystery of God's sovereign plan threaded deeper still, unfolding like the very heavens themselves, waiting to be known, to be fulfilled. And the Lord spoke again, his voice as a gentle breeze, yet it echoed with the weight of eternity. "Abraham, behold, your time of promise draws near. For I am the God who breathes life into the barren and who transforms sorrow into joy. This deed shall be the beginning of nations, and through your lineage, all the families of the earth shall be blessed." Abraham stood in awe, his heart racing with a mixture of fear and elation. "O Lord, what will become of this child?" he asked, feeling the gravity of the promise take root in his spirit. "What will be his name, and how shall he bring forth the legacy you have spoken?" The three visitors exchanged a knowing glance, and the atmosphere thickened, charged with divine purpose. The air was rich with anticipation, and Sarah, concealed yet drawn closer by the unfolding mystery, sensed a tidal wave of destiny loom over their lives as she eavesdropped from behind the very fabric of her tent. "There is a name," one of the heavenly figures declared, his countenance radiant, "that will echo through the ages. You shall call him Isaac, for laughter shall rejoice in what was once thought impossible. Sarah's laughter shall be transformed into laughter of joy, and all who hear shall declare the greatness of the Lord." As these words settled in Abraham's ears, a reverberation danced within him, igniting forgotten dreams and the promise of laughter intertwined with life. He grinned, his heart swelling as he envisioned the child whom God had ordained. But as the visitors continued their discourse, transitioning to the fate of Sodom and Gomorrah, a solemnity fell over the gathering. "The cry of those cities has reached us," one of them proclaimed, "and their sin is laid bare before us. We shall send forth judgment, yet for the sake of the righteous, Abraham shall stand in the gap." Abraham's heart cracked open with compassion, memories of his kin who resided within those cities tormenting his soul. "Would you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked?" he implored, his voice trembling under the weight of intercession. "What if there are 50 righteous within the city? Will you spare it?" "Should 50 be found, I will spare the whole place for their sake," the Lord responded, unyielding yet gracious. And so, Abraham's heart sank deeper into a world besieged by injustice, and boldness took root in his spirit. He continued to plead, "What if there are 45? Or even 30 or 20? Surely the judge of all the earth must do right." With each word spoken, the Lord listened, his patience reaching beyond the horizon of judgment. Each discussion unveiled Abraham's sheer tenacity, but more significantly, it revealed the heart of God towards his creation, longing not for destruction but for salvation. At last, Abraham's voice quaked, "O Lord, let not your anger burn against me if I ask but this once, what if there are 10 righteous men? If I find 10 there, I will not destroy it," the Lord assured, sealing his covenant of mercy. As the sun dipped beyond the valley, the visitors prepared to journey onward, speaking of the imminent moment of reckoning. Abraham watched them depart, his heart heavy yet hopeful, the words of promise coiling around him as shadows stretched across the earth. Would the righteous be found, or would the judgment fall? With a weary heart, he turned toward the tent, where the laughter of a potential future resided, still entwined with the echoes of the past. In that space, between despair and anticipation, Abraham realized, God's plan was not merely unfolding, but rather, it was being woven into the very fabric of human history. But beneath that tapestry lay an even greater mystery, a promise long sealed yet now being unveiled, a plan meant to stretch through the generations, yet cloaked in divine timing. What awaited them next, only the Almighty knew. And the men turned their faces from thence, and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. His heart was heavy, burdened by the fate of those cities, and he lifted his voice in silent prayer, beseeching God for mercy. Then the Lord whispered into Abraham's spirit, "The time has come for justice and mercy to walk hand in hand. The judgment I have ordained is near, yet I have seen the righteous within the ruins of iniquity. I long for my covenant people to shine brightly even amidst the ashes of despair." Abraham knew that this was not merely an appeal for two cities, but for all of humanity, the righteous and the wicked entangled in a web of choices that would echo through eternity. His mind raced as he pondered what more he could do, his spirit wrestled with the weight of a world hungry for grace. As the sun sank lower, a flicker of hope ignited within him. Could there be a remnant that would yet bear witness to the goodness of God? He remembered the promise made to him that through his seed, all nations would be blessed. Perhaps, he murmured, one righteous soul could be the light to draw others back. In the quiet of twilight, a shiver ran through the earth, as if it understood the momentous gravity of the divine plan at hand. "Lord," Abraham ventured again, emboldened, "if there be 5 righteous, will you spare the city?" "For 5, I shall hold back my hand," came the soft but firm reply. Driven by compassion, Abraham pressed on. "O Lord, if only I could plead for my family, my nephew Lot, who dwells among them. How many more will it take, that they might be saved?" The echoes of Abraham's thoughts filled the air, as the Lord contemplated the potential of faith sparking in the hearts of men. The door of salvation swings wide for the humble and repentant. But know this, my eyes search the earth for those who would stand in faith. For each righteous soul is like a beacon, illuminating the path to redemption. With every word, heaven resounded with the weight of his promise. Abraham's fervent prayers took flight, their wings nourished by hope. As night draped its starry cloak over the land, he ventured still deeper into the heart of the matter. "What if there are but 10, Lord? Surely none would perish for their sake. If I find 10 in that city, I will not destroy it," reaffirmed the Lord, his voice soft yet powerful, reverberating throughout the valley. Abraham's heart clung to these precious words, resting in the assurance of God's mercy. The evening chill wrapped round him, and he pondered the fate of Sodom and Gomorrah, the places where darkness danced with abandon, where sin festered like an open wound. In that moment, a deeper understanding surged within him. The very promise of laughter, of Isaac, was intertwined with the destiny of nations. Each life mattered, woven together by a divine thread that only the Creator could see. As the night deepened, the visitors moved onward toward the cities, leaving behind a ruminating Abraham, an intercessor called to stand guard over a fragile world. He wrestled not just for physical deliverance, but for the very spirit of the cities that lay under the shadow of judgment. Would there be enough lights shining brightly to thwart the encroaching darkness? Thus, the purpose of the promise began to twist and twine around the looming fate of 2 cities, and like a tapestry unfolding, a deeper mystery awaited revelation, a divine purpose, culminating in a lineage that would transcend earthly boundaries, reaching beyond mere generations, for the time would come, and the world would witness the fulfillment of God's sovereign plan, an unfolding saga that would forever alter the course of history. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the stars flickered to life, illuminating the path taken by the 2 men. They entered Sodom, a city thick with shadows and vibrant with sin. The air was heavy with the stench of wickedness, yet amidst this darkness, righteous Lot lingered in the silence of his own heart. In this city of lost souls, Lot sat at the gateway, burdened by the weight of the iniquity that surrounded him. His eyes scanned the streets, knowing deep within that the very fabric of his kin and the people to whom he was connected were unraveling. A shudder coursed through him, for he had taken refuge in the companionship of these ungodly ones. Yet there remained a flicker of hope that urged him to act. As night consumed the day, the angels, who had taken the appearance of men, were approached by Lot. "My lords," he beseeched, "come, I pray you, to your servant's house and stay the night." He was driven by a desire to protect these heavenly visitors from the perils of the night. The men of the city encircled the house like ravenous wolves, demanding the strangers be delivered unto them to satisfy their wicked desires. Lot's heart raced. He stood firm yet trembled inwardly at the chaos raging around him. "I have 2 daughters," he offered, "who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as is good in your eyes." He could hardly believe his words, for the depth of his desperation overwhelmed his reason. "Stand back!" came the vehement reply of the people, their souls ensnared by the darkness of their own choosing. They pressed nearer until the angels intervened, reaching forth their hands and pulling Lot back inside. In that moment, divine authority ignited. The men who sought to perpetrate evil were struck with blindness, their refusal to see justice amidst their sin leaving them in utter chaos. "The outcry against this city has reached the heavens," the angels declared. "We have come to destroy it." The warning resonated deeply within Lot. "Please, my lords," he cried out, "if I have found favor in your sight, save my family, for they are enmeshed in this wickedness." "We will see to it," the angels promised, "but arise and bring your kin outside this city, for the judgment of God will soon be upon these walls." With that, the urgency of the moment sparked in Lot's heart. His love for his family cast aside every worldly bond, as he dashed toward his sons-in-law, pleading for their salvation. "Get up! The Lord will destroy this city," he implored, but their hearts were hardened. They laughed at him, rejecting the warning with scorn. Within the walls of this city, shadows loomed large, yet Lot's voice resounded with faith, a faint echo of hope amidst a cacophony of despair. The time was short, the impending judgment drew near with unyielding certainty. Yet Lot lingered, torn between the life he had built and the revelation of divine justice sprawling before him. "Come, let us depart," the angels urged with urgency, reaching for Lot and his family. And as the dawn approached, the mercy of the Lord flashed like a beacon amid the desolation. Lot, though hesitant, finally set forth, breaking free from Sodom's shackles, led by heavenly hands. As they fled, the land quaked in anticipation of the judgment to come. The fire descended, consuming the wickedness that had taken root. Yet in Lot's heart, the promise of God twinkled, reminding him that even in destruction, there is a whisper of grace. For out of the ashes, a future would rise, a destiny forged not just in despair but in the faithfulness of a covenant unseen. And as the smoke ascended to heaven, the miraculous purpose of God continued to unfold, beckoning the hearts of men, leading to a time when his plan would shatter the chains of sin forevermore, a revelation that was still to come, and the world would marvel. As the dawn broke, the heavens wept with the embers of Sodom falling like rain, the city consumed in flames, its depravity lit to ash before the eyes of the Lord. Lot and his family, stumbling through the desolate landscape, were awash in both fear and relief. Behind them, the cries of the city echoed a haunting chorus of despair and ruin. The wrath of the Almighty had indeed been executed, his word fulfilled as proclaimed. "Flee for your lives," the angels had said. "Do not look back nor stay anywhere in the plain, escape to the mountains, lest you be swept away." Lot's heart trembled at their command, for he had just witnessed the fierce judgment, but still, a pang of dread whispered that he was not yet free. "Not so, my lords," Lot implored, falling at their feet. "I cannot escape to the mountains, for the danger may overtake me and I will die. Behold, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there, is it not a little one? And my life will be saved." The angels, seeing the earnestness of Lot's plea, relented. "Behold, we grant you this favor also, that we will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for we cannot do anything until you arrive there." With divine mercy, the Lord relented, allowing Lot to find refuge in Zoar, a small city where he could conceal himself from the shadows of despair. Yet within him lingered a torment, a remembrance of Sodom that clung to his very soul, as if he were bound by its chains, even in newfound safety. As Lot entered Zoar, the sun ascended on a new day, marking the end of one era and the beginning of another. Yet the taste of deliverance was bitter. He saw shadows dancing where light once flourished, and the memories of the wicked city were like ashes in his mouth. "Where is my family?" he spoke to himself, a chill winding through him. His wife, in her longing for Sodom, had looked back despite the warnings. The weight of her loss pressed upon him, and grief threatened his resolve. Is there hope beyond this destruction? And as he settled into the worn ground of Zoar, the weight of solitude enveloped him. Lot had escaped the flames, but the fire of his heart still burned for his kin. Would they know a future, isolated by choices made in the darkness? His prayers arose like incense, ascending unto heaven with fervent pleas for their salvation. That night, as the stars twinkled like eyes watching from above, the angels appeared once more, their radiant forms casting light upon the darkness of Lot's anguish. "Fear not, Lot," they spoke, their voices like thunder softened by grace. "Though Sodom's flames reflected God's justice, remember, his mercy endures forever. A remnant is preserved for his purposes." As the truth sunk into Lot's soul, a glimmer of hope ignited within him. God's sovereign plan was unfolding, one that transcended the ruins of cities and the heartbreak of families. "Shift your gaze beyond the ashes, for in the midst of devastation, I am raising a new generation. Your lineage shall witness the fullness of my covenant," assured the angel. "Though you have lost much, I will redeem your pain into promise." The very essence of God stirred as the dawn neared, and Lot understood, even amid ruin, God's hand was at work, shaping destinies anew. His sons-in-law remained behind, but the promise of future generations lingered in the air, a whisper of redemption amidst despair. What would become of Lot's legacy? Even amidst ashes, the seeds of a glorious plan had been sown, and from the heartache, a promise of restoration pulsed like a drumbeat, uncertain yet inevitable, and soon to unfold. For in God's timing, all things would be made right, and from this journey through despair would rise a testament of divine grace that would echo for generations to come. And it came to pass, in the quiet of the night, the solitude of Zoar pressed heavily upon Lot, as he wandered through the thoughts of what could have been, his heart a tempest of sorrow. The skies, once clear and bright, now seemed to echo back the cries of his lost kin, memories playing unwelcome in his mind. As dawn approached, an unease settled like a fog upon Lot's spirit. He recalled the words of the angels, "Hurry, escape there, for we cannot do anything until you arrive there." How many souls had perished in Sodom, blinded by their lust for the world? Could he have changed their destinies? His heart yearned for reconnection, but he was but one man, flawed and frightened. "Lord, hear my cry," he prayed earnestly, "for you have delivered me, yet I am a man torn between grief and gratitude. Can these bones live again?" For he remembered the promises given to Abraham, his uncle, whose faith had stirred the heart of God, and he thought, if only they knew the God of promise. The sun began to rise, casting golden beams over Zoar, illuminating the worn path of escape that Lot had tread. Yet the light seemed to mock him, for he felt the encroaching shadows of sorrow clinging to his soul. With every step he took, visions of destruction filled his mind, and he sensed the weight of an unfulfilled legacy. Then, the Lord spoke to his heart, whispering through the very marrow of his being, "You are not alone, Lot. I am with you. Fear not, for even now, through your pain, my purpose prevails." Lot's spirit stirred at the voice of the Almighty, and he remembered the covenant, the promises made to Abraham that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the heavens. "Surely this cannot end with me," he thought, grasping onto the remnant of hope. In the following days, as he walked the streets of Zoar, he encountered the inhabitants of the city, who seemed unaware of the judgment that had befallen Sodom. Their lives were simple, their hearts naive. Yet, in their eyes, Lot beheld a flicker of something precious, a chance for renewal, an opportunity to share the hope he clung to so desperately. "Come, and let me tell you of a God who saves," Lot began to speak, gathering the people around him. "He desires not death, but life, not destruction, but salvation. His words flowed like honey, and the townsfolk listened with rapt attention, curious of the man who had escaped the flames. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, Lot preached of repentance and mercy, allowing the light of God's promises to shine through his testimony. Yet in the quiet hours of the night, he wrestled once more with the shadow of Sodom that haunted him. Would his lineage bear the fruit of preservation or perish amidst apathy? And one fateful evening, as the stars pierced the velvet sky, there came a heavy knock upon his door. A fierce determination ignited within him that all would change in this hour. "Who seeks me?" cried Lot, his heart pounding like the drums of war. The door creaked open, revealing men of Zor, faces alight with questions and fears. "We have heard your words, Lot, and our hearts are unsettled. What must we do to escape the wrath that has preserved you?" At that moment, God's sovereign plan unfolded before him, an invitation for transformation. Lot looked upon their eager faces and understood, "Believe in the Lord, and you shall be saved. For even the smallest seed of faith shall bear witness of his glory." Yet unbeknownst to him, outside Zor, forces unseen were at work, plotting and scheming against the remnants of the faithful. A darkness loomed, threatening to devour the fragile flicker of hope Lot had begun to kindle. With his heart racing, not just for himself but for a new generation on the cusp of faith, he felt the stirring of destiny. Would Lot's faith be strong enough to rise against the tides of despair? Beyond the walls of Zor, shadows moved restlessly, for God was preparing to reveal a promise greater than merely survival, a legacy crafted in the very fabric of his divine purpose. What other truths awaited in the unfolding of God's grand design? In the hearts of those seeking the light, would seeds of promise take root amidst adversity? For as the sun rises, so do the possibilities of his great and mighty plan. And it came to pass, in the appointed time ordained by God, that Sarah's laughter transformed from disbelief into a sacred joy. The days swelled with anticipation, each moment accumulating grace like the gentle dew upon the grass. The promise once cloaked in uncertainty was now poised to burst forth into reality, aligning the tapestry of time with divine purpose. As the seasons turned, the sacred cycle of life began anew in the tent of Abraham. With each setting sun and rising dawn, faith bloomed brighter. The heart of Sarah, once heavy with the burden of doubt, danced like a flame reignited. The long-awaited moment arrived, in which she would cradle the miraculous, a child of promise. "Name him Isaac," declared the aged Abraham, his voice quaking with awe, for indeed, the Lord had given him laughter from the depths of sorrow. Their hearts rejoiced as the echoes of their history merged into this new beginning. "For God has made laughter for me, everyone who hears will laugh with me," Sarah proclaimed, spinning in a whirlwind of joy and disbelief made holy. In that moment, as they gazed at the cherubic face of their son, the covenant was sealed anew. With Isaac nestled in Sarah's arms, the promise reiterated with each beat of his little heart, proclaiming the faithfulness of the God who fulfills his every word. They had journeyed from doubt to delight, from longing to fulfillment. Indeed, the breath of life had revived hope in ways they could not imagine. Meanwhile, Lot's heart bore the imprint of his deliverance. In the small town of Zor, where shadows once loomed large, he stood as a beacon, his legacy speaking volumes in the quiet resolve of faith. The townsfolk, inspired by his testimony, gathered around him, yearning to know of the loving Almighty who had spared their lives. "Come, let me tell you of the one who saves. For even amidst great wrath, his mercy prevails," Lot declared with fervor. The hearts of those who heard ignited with a flicker of hope, a shared laughter that transcended the ashes of Sodom and lingered like the scent of new blossoms. They were now on the journey of faith, nurtured by Lot's words, filled with the essence of a God who does not forget his promises. Days turned into months as the community flourished with newfound purpose. Lot led them to the oaks and the hills, teaching them the history of Abraham's faith, weaving together stories of redemption that shimmered with the reality of divine love. Each dawn brought fresh resolve, each sunset a reminder of God's steadfast faithfulness. Yet, unbeknownst to this humble gathering, the ripple of Abraham's covenant spread across lands and generations. For God had not merely fulfilled a single promise, he had orchestrated a symphony of hope destined to rise from the ashes of the past. The son of Abraham, Isaac, and the children to follow would echo through the ages, shaping hearts and nations, pointing toward the one who would redeem the world. As the sun set on a golden horizon, both Lot and Abraham found solace in the quiet prayer of gratitude. For each trial endured, each moment of doubt wrestled, had forged their faith a shared legacy that declared the goodness and mercy of God. And so, the unfolding tapestry continued, vibrant and rich in divine intent. Isaac grew, and his laughter filled the valleys, signaling not just the fulfillment of a promise but the preface to greater wonders yet unwritten. As the stories of Abraham and Lot wove together seamlessly, they formed a foundation upon which hope sprang eternal, a testament to the unyielding love of the Lord. Beloved, understand this: the journey of faith, often intertwined with uncertainty, leads us to the cradle of promise. We are invited to partake in the laughter of Isaac, to embrace the legacy of faith that blooms from every trial. Do not linger in the shadows of doubt nor waste another moment in isolation from the truth of God's word. Let his voice resonate in your spirit as you reflect upon this narrative of time. Remember, his faithfulness is immutable, and his promises are true. Subscribe immediately to this channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that illuminate the journey of the faithful. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, bring his truth to the light. Comment your spiritual reflections and share how this biblical story has impacted your faith. You need to share your testimony. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's powerful truth today. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth and elevate the voices of those who seek. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. It may ignite a spark of faith in someone's heart.